So I am Eileen from IntelliData. I am a reporting analyst slash BI solutions consultant slash your data and dashboard BFF. And before we dive into dashboards, I know you're all very excited with all the metrics and numbers and data. That's our language. But before that, allow us to share a little bit more about IntelliData and what we do. And of course, with me today, generously sharing the stage is our president, who doesn't want to be called our president, but he is. Danny.
I'm a nerd. So thank you very much. My name is Danny Lake. I'm with IntelliData. I have a mic here, but I think I'm loud enough, and I get excited when talking about data anyway, so I think you guys can hear me. Let me know if you need a mic. But yes, so we are IntelliData. We're a data solution company. We deal with any data related, data cleanup, data enhancement, for example. So if you have a record of a name and phone number, and you need an email, you need an employer, we can enhance those reports. So those are one of our services. Data migrations, we do a lot of data migration projects, meaning if you move from one AMS to another, we can help you guys out. But again, I'm not here to sell you guys anything. We're doing some presentation. So been in the association space for about 25 years now, mostly in the data space. So like I said, it's more like a nerd, and I'm here to do be a technical support for Eileen. So go ahead. Roughly we work with about 75 or so associations so far, nationwide, wide majority. So we have those investment company, AI, a lot of medical societies that we work with. They love data, and with data we can grab something like getting something for engagement, member engagement, things like that. And we can go dive deeper into that, what we can do. But again, we're here to help with for you guys to start, right? Next up, so other than the medical societies, we also work with some of the Y, some of the health clubs, helping them with majority of clubs actually member related. So if you guys have member related questions on the dashboards, we're here for Q&As. We have about 10 minutes, but if it's not enough time, we have a table upstairs. You guys can stop by. We're here for all day, I guess. I'm happy to answer any questions, right? Next slide.
All right, I think it's best to start with a little fun exercise for you guys. Just a little way to look at the data differently. If your reports had a dating profile, this is a little controversial, which emoji would describe them? So are they reliable but boring, always dated outdated, messy and full of duplicates, we don't like that, complicated and overwhelming, or is it time to move on? So just grab your phones, we have this big QR code right here, if I can see that right. And if you're having a hard time zooming in, you could just type in menti.com, and there's a little code there, 23746521. Don't worry, I will try to contact you. And let's see, I will give you a few minutes to key in your answer, a few seconds. And while we're doing so, because we are nerds here and we love to talk about data, here's an interesting fact for you. In early 2022, about 70% of millennials in the United States said that emojis in digital communications help improve their mental health. And about 60% of Generation X said the same. And because I'm seeing I have a lot of Gen Zs and Gen Alpha here, that's about 90%. So as you can see, we are on the right track here. Let's see if you could pull some of the results of that.
And we're going to keep the results up.
Oh, perfect.
Cool. So 30
Right.
messy and full of duplicates.
All right, that's
Using
that.
cards. I'm just kidding.
Okay, interesting. Let's see. Okay, and because just like how emojis instantly capture your meaning and your emotions, our goal is that after this session, hopefully you would get to think about your data and your reports only as a smiley face, only as a party emoji, or maybe the best emoji, thumbs up. All right, so that's our goal. But let's start first with, let's see if I could go back to that slide. And okay, that is really the goal. But let's start with a little reality check for everybody. Okay, Out of curiosity, how many here would still use spreadsheet with their reports or deal with a lot and tons of spreadsheet? Yeah, for sure. I love Excel. That's our language. So yeah, and that totally makes sense. That's totally fine because Excel, your spreadsheet is something that you are all familiar with. It is accessible and it is easy to start with, basically. But the challenge now is, as your data grows, this go-to tool that we have known from the start suddenly becomes a limitation. And they say, why is that? Well, I think it's best that we define first what a dashboard is and how it goes beyond your traditional spreadsheet. So you would have your spreadsheet, your rows and columns of your data, and it's great for data entry, great for storage. Your Excel file would have what? Maximum of 1 million rows and 16,000 columns. That's a data nerd. You can't go wrong with that, right? But it's a little hard to share it among team members, and usually, most of the time, you have to manually update it. And because of that, if you would be needing an analysis, it would take you time to go and dig through columns and rows of data. And meanwhile, you have your dashboards. Your dashboard turned your data into visual, interactive charts. And you could also set up automated real-time updates. And because this highlights your key trends and your metrics, then it is easier to share within team members and at the same time leads to better decision making. We were actually talking about how to best describe spreadsheet and dashboard, and that would lead us to say your dashboard would be your old school traditional print and map. And that is totally fine. We love it. All the information is there. But if you're also a geographically challenged person like myself, I would still get lost following this map. You would take time to understand and to understand it. And then there comes the great invention of a digital map that is like available, say, in your malls or in your outlets or specific places, or even your Google Maps, wherein you will just have to key in where you want to go, and it will give you specific path, take the turns that you would have to take for you to arrive there. And now it even gives you options to see how long it will take you to reach your destination. And that would be your version of a dashboard, right? And so now that we're talking about dashboard being this great tool that will turn your information into an actionable insight, here's the bigger picture. These dashboards alone do not create a data-driven culture, right? These numbers on our screen will not suddenly miraculously convert your data into something, because you would need people to actually act on it. And these people would not only need access, but they would also need the expertise, the skills to interpret your data, and the tools and the system that would go with it. That's why this code from MIT Skill Management Review, and also as coded in AAC-Center.org, this is very powerful because it reminds us that for your organization to be to build a data-driven culture, you would need to be ready in all these levels. Your data, is it accurate? Is it complete? Can it be trusted? And then you have your people. Do they have the necessary skills to be able to interpret your data? And of course, your tools, your infrastructure, are your systems, are your processes in place? And with all of this in mind, if you put them together, then we know that your dashboards are not only a reporting tool, it then becomes your drivers. They are drivers for you to come up with a better decision for your organizations, right? So I guess now that we're talking about decision making and for it creating a lasting impact for your associations, the big question now is that why do dashboards matter or should matter for the associations? And I would have to pass the mic on to Danny, who, as he shared, has been in the association world for 25 years, so that he could provide us more insights on why it should matter for association and what are the current challenges among the associations in coming up with their dashboards.
Good, next slide. Yeah. So the gap is usually with the dashboard, or with Excel, I see about half of the group that has their hands up when we're asking about Excel questions, right? So with Excel, it's like Eileen said, human brains are usually visual. You can look at, I do myself love Excel, right? But it's hard to consume, it's hard to interpret data into Excel easily, right? And it's just, when here's their way of decision making, right? With dashboard is you can combine a bunch of Excel, one or multiple Excel, let's say a bunch of multiple Excels, and combine them and create a visual. So your executive director, upper management can say, for this month, this is how we do it. This is our revenue. Our annual meeting is coming up next month. I know how many people are registered. What's our projected revenue? Like again, that's a long-term goal. I mean, we can get to that, but we're talking about how to start your dashboard here, right? But that's your end goal. As a developer, usually as an analytics developer, usually we look at things. We do a reverse engineer usually. We'll go through that a little later. We usually look at what you're trying to achieve and how you can achieve it, right? With Excel, yes, it is. You can do it. It just might take a little while, right? But with dashboard, you can get real-time insight. Like I said, imagine you're looking at an Excel spreadsheet that has 20 columns and 1,000 rows, right? You got to go through it, putting a filter, putting a sorting, and things like that, right? But you can put it in the dashboard, and you can see and by the way, toward the end, we're going to do a quick demo on how to build a quick dashboard. But it's so easy that you can find out information pretty quick, right? The good thing about dashboard as well is, like Eileen said, if we use Excel as our data source, when you update the Excel spreadsheet, the dashboard will get updated automatically, right? With Excel, it doesn't happen. So there's a lot more features that we could do. But anyway, with the data, with the dashboard, and this is a screenshot. With charts, it's so easy. You can get information within 30 seconds rather than looking at spreadsheet, right? So we are trying to be. I know we've been throwing a lot of contradictory information. First, we say the dashboard's easy, but then on the other side, we say you gotta be data ready. What we're talking about, right? So, and we're trying to debunk the myth here. People come to us. The first question they ask is, how do I get started? I have this spreadsheet, or I have my learning management software, I have my website, I have my survey, and I have my AMS or CRM. But I can only see information from one of the different system inside those. I cannot combine them both. How do I start? And what we usually say is, start simple. And again, what I was telling you guys earlier, do a little reverse engineering. What are you trying to achieve? If I'm just going to look for my member retention or my member renewal rate or my member count, just stick with that data set first. Start small. Start going with the low-hanging fruit. Because as we experience, it's the more, and this is my favorite quote, the more you know, the more you don't know data. Because the more you look at the dashboard, usually the hamster in your head is going to start running, and you're like, oh, I can see this. I wonder if I can do this, right? So that's usually what happens. So start with the simple thing, right? And people, a lot of people said, but just like with the survey with the mentee, half of 30% saying, my data is full of duplicates. Yes, we need a clean data. We need a standardized data. We need a good system. We need all of those, but you don't need all of them at the same time. Start small, right? That's the question, right? We don't have enough data. Data is not enough. We need expensive software and full-time analysts. The dashboards are too technical. Bad news is those are all true. But we are debunking this, right? We are saying, just start small. So like I said, if I am building, if I'm just looking at how many people are, how many of my members are attending my annual meeting that's coming up in 6 months, do I need member retention information? Probably not. Do I need how much revenue that we're going to make out of that meeting? Maybe if you need it. So start focus small. When you start focusing small items, we can find out whether once you know what you're looking for, then we can find out whether you have that data set or not. If you have that data set, then half of the battle is there. Then we can just have to figure out how you're going to display it, right? Display it in actionable items. So that's what it is. Next slide. So as Eileen said, getting started is easier than you think. And like I said, we'll show you some demo later, the presentation that you can see.
Right. So as Danish saying, let's change this mindset, or what should be the mindset before you build? When we focus on your questions instead of the tools, then it becomes easier. What do I want to achieve from this dashboard, right? And next would be, you would have to clarify your audience. Who will actually be using your dashboards, right? Is your board, your staff, or maybe share it with your members? And once we have that, then you could go back to your question and say, will this actually work for my audience? And of course, then you share this. You have to keep it actionable. What are we going to do after this? After seeing this data, what's going to happen? And part of that is also avoiding vanity metrics. So let's just step back a little bit and then define what vanity metrics are. Because I'm sure that you're also very familiar with this, but we didn't get to talk about a lot of vanity metrics. You know, once you have metrics, you would think that, oh, I would have to use this. This is what I'm getting from all my data sources, and this is great. And there's totally nothing wrong with that. It's great that you have access to that data, but the vanity metrics are a little bit impressive. That would make you feel good about your performance, but without a specific context to it, it's not really very actionable. And what are the examples of this? Say your total website visits, right? And it's great if you have like high total website visits number, but if it doesn't lead to sign up, you can see who signed up, who you cannot see who registered, or maybe engaged in the website, then all of this would be cosmetic. For all you know, that could just be me. I love bookmarking websites for brand colors, so that would just add up. And then you have your social media likes or your followers, which is great. It boosts the team morale and everything, but it doesn't really tell you your member retention unless you could trace it back to their specific profile and then link back to them being part of your members. When you have your event page views, I've given that as an example, the downloads or the PDF views, or your number of newsletter opens. And all of this, in summary, is really just, you have these great big numbers, but if there's no context to it, and there's nothing you could do, and there's no action, then it would mostly be in vain. So ask yourself, what decisions do you want your dashboard to support, and what information would actually help you to get there? Because right now, your focus should be, instead of chasing every metrics, we say it like, your data is not created equal. Not all data deserve a spot, or all these metrics deserve a spot in your dashboard. So you would want to zero in on what you already have and what you already know. As Dennis mentioned, there's so much data sources, there's a lot, but it's important. Or maybe you would think, there are tons of it, or maybe none of it, right? But where does your data live? It could be your AMS, your CRM, CMS, LMS. I've run out of other acronyms here, but you get the idea. There are different fragmented data sources. But the challenge is that aside from knowing where they are, is that you would have to identify and decide on which data would actually be best to start with. I love when Danny says good enough data is good enough. Because if that's what you have, then we work with the data that you have, and let's start with something small and start with that and expand it, right? And again, going back to focusing on your one or two reliable sources, and probably then would you have other examples of AMS or other data sources for that?
Oh no, this is good enough. And then I guess a lot of, most of you guys probably, some of you guys might have most of these, but majority of you guys probably have AMS or CRM, and maybe CMS is content management systems of your website, right, and your service every monthly. And even there's an event, and also there might be some email platform, content, Mailchimps, and things like that you can pull. But again, like Ali said, good enough is good enough. The fact is, when you start building dashboard, when you start building reports, that's when you're going to find out where your problems are usually with data. When you run and you say, I know I have 10,000 members, but it shows 25,000 members. Something's going on. Something's going on here, right? I know we have more registrations here. That more people register for this meeting, but it's not showing up what's going on, right? Am I not pulling data from the am I not pulling the right data? Or am I pulling data from a different source, right? So things like that. So that's what I said. Start with good enough is usually our motto, as a starter. Start with something because either you're going to build on top of it or you're going to find where your challenge is, and then you can put layer on top of it after you find out.
Okay, and then once that you have identified your data or something that you could rely on, then your next question now would be, what would be the metrics that you're going to use? And for most association, this boils down to your essentials, right? You would have your membership, either it's a renewal, retention, or your new member acquisition. What is your goal for that specific time period? What are you looking at? Or even fundraising recommendations. And then there comes engagement. You have your event and meeting attendance. There's like course completion and certification. Is this your priority right now? And you also have community membership, if that would matter to the association. Maybe that is something that you could look into. And of course, the operation side of it could be your financials, your budget, revenue from these programs, communications and marketing. And then basically, you can pick 3 to 5 metrics, and this is something that your team will actually act on. And I think I've heard earlier saying something about acting on it, like doing something that is really actionable for your organization. Pick 3 to 5 metrics, and you could definitely add more later. Because it is very tempting to actually put everything or connect everything all at the same time. And that would be our biggest pitfall. Trying to connect all the systems at once. It's like, you have to wow all your audience. I have to put all my metrics in there. I have to answer all my questions. And what happens is that instead of starting with one dashboard and being able to expand, you try to complicate more things. And that's what we want to avoid. And aside from that, it may be best if you could use your prototypes or your mock-ups and you build, you gather feedback, and you validate it among teams. Is this something that's actually useful for you? Is this something that you need? So aside from that, in the same principle, it is best when you're using simple tools. You don't really have to sign up, say, for the whole Microsoft Enterprise, maybe. So you could start small. You could start with free trials. You could try Power BI, which is a widely known tool, and widely known BI is a visualization tool as well. And it integrates with a lot of data sources. You have Looker Studio. It is free of charge. And if you're using Google Analytics, then you can actually seamlessly integrate it with your Google Analytics. And it's accessible, it's free. And you can also have Tableau. It's a little on the expensive side, but they have a rich visualization. It is a rich visualization tool. And on top of that, I believe if you are an association, you could also get discount on some of the Microsoft tools, right?
Oh, yeah, yes. So Looker Studio is a Google product. Just because it's a Google product, it doesn't mean that you have to connect to Google. But if you have a Google Analytics, for example, it's easier to interact. But Power BI is Microsoft product, and Tableau used to be on its own, but now it's part of Salesforce product. So Tableau is usually at the expensive side of the software. Looker Studio, like Eileen said, it's free. And Power BI, retail price, I think it's $14 a month per user. So, but if you're a nonprofit, I think it can get up to as low as $2 a month. So check with whoever you buy your software from. $2 a month, basically $45 a year. So it's very, very affordable, right? Or if you have some, again, not to be technical, but if you have certain plan on your Office 365, you might include Power BI, so you might not have to pay for the license. So.
Great. And I think we've come to the exciting part because you're going to tell me, oh, these are all good in principles, I need Danny, but how do we start? So we are in this part right now. Let's have our fictional association. We have here ADTP. ADTP is the Association of Digital Transformation Professionals, and they actually headquartered in San Antonio, Texas. They have about 200 members, they serve about 200 members, and just like most associations, their challenge right now is that they have fragmented data sources. So what they have to do is to export all these Excel files. They have different files for data, member data, summary, all the attendees for every meetings and events, and they have that, which is good. They have all this data. But and from time to time, they would also pull people charts or people tables, and they would come up with needed charts for reporting. But the challenge is it gets a little overwhelming overwhelming, if you have a lot of spreadsheet and you would have to go through these rows and columns of data. And it's not even because they have a lot of spreadsheet. The challenge is that, I think Danny mentioned it, by nature, our brains just cannot process all these rows and columns of data very well. Our brain actually value visuals over any type of information. And another bad thing is this research backed up. 65% of people are visual learners. So it's not just you, it's about 65% of people, and then 90% of information transmitted to the brain is visual. And that presentations with visual aids are 43% more persuasive. So we're actually hoping we're persuading you right now with all our visual. All right, so basically the challenge from ADTP is putting all of this spreadsheet in place, and from those number of spreadsheets, probably they have 20, we were able to come up with a single dashboard that would give them a view of their current members. So as you can see from those 20 or more spreadsheets, we have, say, 5 visualizations. And wouldn't it be better that instead of going through rows and columns of visual, I have here a summary of their actual active members. And then, these active members you would see initially at a glance, and then your board would ask, you could say that, oh, we have a steady growth for the past years, but there was like a slight decline in 2025. And all of this in a visually easier way to explain it. Or then you would see that your member driver, or the driver of your membership, would mostly be full ADTP members and not your affiliates. And even look at your member acquisition, that you would see some mix on, say, March or April, and then it would suggest that you have seasonal member acquisition. What are these? Are these tied to your meetings? Are these tied to your events? And once you see these trends, then you are challenged now, what would be the next step for us? Are we going to focus our efforts on year-round outreach or year-round events for our members? And even look at your member journey. It would show you that your members, say for ADTP, their members that joined in 2023 have been staying with them for 2 years, but then why is there a slight decline in 2025? What happened there? Or you could focus also on your location. You would initially see a snapshot. What would be your member distribution? They're saying they are headquartered in San Antonio, but you could see a variety of their members everywhere in Texas. And maybe for the next event, they could focus on this location or in this areas, right? And this is just static, but the beauty of it, and we've been saying that there is an actual interactive version, if I could just make it work there, an actual interactive version of this dashboard. Is it changing? Okay, yes, there you go. So it's a video, I'm sorry, I hope it changed. But it says that you could actually, interact with your dashboard and be able to compare different years or focus on your specific member type. And this one you're focusing on specific location, if you want to go through that, and all of these are connected and all of these are interactive. And the beauty of it is to actually drill through your member data, wherein you could put in info from your company, info from your member, and put them in a specific table. And these are just examples wherein you could see a specific breakdown per person. Right? And even look into putting all the company data has been shared, or everything that matters for you. Like you would look into your membership start, your membership ending, or even validate a specific member who would probably be asking about renewal, or tapping them and looking at their engagement. We could also do that specific per member, right? And then you would probably say, that's okay, it's great, it's very pretty. But then we have certain challenges on, say, meetings and events. This is another example. So still on ADTP, our fictional association, they have different registration data for their meetings and events. And basically, what you could do, you would say, oh, I could do a summary of that. I could just do a summary table. I would have my attendance list. I would go to the table and come up with yearly, these are my members, these are my attendance. And that is totally fine without work, and those are the data that you need. But then, your dashboard would provide you a different layer of insight, wherein it could tell you who are attending our meetings, what is our event retention rate, what is the distribution of ticket, say, sales for event. And you could come up, again, with a single view dashboard that daily ticket sales breakdown. They have decrease with a specific price point and increase on another, and maybe that is something that you could look into. Or what would be your lunch on price ticket? It could vary, you could change it. There's an opportunity for your growth. And you would say, oh, there are non-members attending our events. What could we do with that? How could we possibly increase that? And most importantly, your retention. And the beauty of this is that you could see, like, say, high retention rate. What can we do to increase further engagement among our members? And that would be a great anchor for your engagement, right? And if I could just show the interactive version again, wherein you could compare again, look into specific years or go through specific events, or focus on specific member type. But the beauty of this is then again, you could drill through and then you would see who are these members. Did they attend a specific event? How much did they spend on that? Or when you go to retention, it's the same thing. They could actually break it down by member type or by other info ticket type per member, per data. So it would really depend on, again, what would be your goal or what are the questions that you want answered.
If I could add also, the events is usually very, very beneficial if you add breakout sessions, right? So when you have, in your annual meeting, you have your golf outing, you have your, like Eileen said, you have your luncheon, and figuring out, you could say, hey, half of our non-members attend the golf outing, assuming that your non-members can go to your annual meeting, for example, right? But or who went to what breakout session, and you can use that information for the following year to say maybe we should, let's say the gala is or the luncheon is really popular, maybe we should get a bigger room, or maybe the golf people are more interested in golf or pickleball or whatever that is, right? Maybe we should focus that as a attraction point so people can come to me, right? And at the end of the day, if that's your revenue source for you, that's your goal, right? So you increase your revenue just because by looking at your data and figuring out what can I do with the information that I have. And I don't know if you guys believe in this, but you guys already have the data. We always tell people you already have the data. Take advantage of that. You don't have to you don't have to do anything else. You have the gold mine in there. You just have to dig it, right? You just have to find out what it is. So
All right. And I think this is my favorite part now, because in a way, this would show how simple it would be to start with like Power BI. Power BI, as we've shared, is a Microsoft tool, and it goes very little for renewal or monthly fees. But this is the ones that I've shown as a dashboard is made in Power BI, and easily what we could do is how are we going to export data, let's say from your fragmented data sources into an Excel file. And as you can see, I have, say, your membership data.
take a quick pause, right?
Yeah, sure.
So the good thing about Power BI is if you're building the dashboard, if you're not sharing with anybody, you don't have to pay anything. You just have to download the software. You don't have to pay anything. How Microsoft gets you is when you start sharing with people, then if I'm sharing with 5 of my team members, then 6 of us will have to get licenses. But if I'm only sharing with 1, then both of the sharer and the consumer will need to get a license, right? But if you so you can get away with that by having people download the desktop version, if you will, and not buying the license. But if you build this, if you want to if you want to just play around with this, you don't have to pay anything with Microsoft. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, so going back, you could see that if you were like watching my screen earlier, from the Power BI desktop, what I did is to actually load an Excel file. It's called like a membership summary. Say they have this membership summary, and you could see they have a couple rows, maybe about 200 rows, and they have all of this data, 20 columns, 21 columns. And basically what we want is say,
still, this is the learning curve is not quite flat, but it's not steep.
There is a version also where you would have to put in some basic formulas, but again, that is something that we could easily share with you or learn about it. So say I would want to look at my status for 2025, right? So we are looking at this, and what you could have, let's see, from here to the side, you could put it and break it down, and then, oh, it's a bar chart. Maybe it won't work for me. It's easier if I would put it into a pie chart. And if you were like me, I would spend maybe 1 hour or 2 to pick the right colors and to put the right visual, right? I would probably go through everything. And that's the fun side of it. Because you kind of realize, oh, will this work? Will this bar chart work for us? What do we want to see? Do we want to see the percentage? Do we want to see the growth? Do we want to see the trends? And each of these charts would probably work depends on the tools that you have in mind.
Aline might be kidding, but we have a client that said, I hate purple and blue. Do not give me any charts that have those colors. And I'm not lying, guys.
That's why I'm bookmarking websites for brand colors. That's my pastime. All right. So, okay, let's go back to say your member ID, you have your account, and I would probably think, oh, I want to see my gender type, but let's say I have your status, active and inactive, but I want to see a breakdown of your gender, and then it would show you this, and I would probably expand that, make it into.
And there is no rule that you can only have 1 or 2 visualization on a page. You know,
Right.
we've done a couple visualization on a page. We've done 6. I wouldn't go with 6. Probably 4 is usually the pretty common.
Yeah.
Right, 4 quadrants. But you can, depends. Right, when you get a line chart, if you want to stretch it, we have a client that's keeping track of 40 years of their fundraising data, 40 years, and they want to track it every single day, right? So you can imagine that the line chart it's actually a line chart that they want to see, and it gets quite long. So we just use 1 page for that. So just an example.
Right. And then you could have, let's say, a filter wherein you would want to only focus on your ABTP member or your affiliate here. And so as you can see, your slides or your visualizations are actually connected to this filter. And it could change as you decide on what you want to see. Or maybe you have details of their industry or job titles. So say I have your member ID, outfit, I would call it count, last sample visual, and then I have your contact number ID, and then I can put it or in which industry they come from. You can see that. And then from this industry, what are the specific job titles? Because a lot of our clients would also want to look into that, and this would then suggest what type of events or what type of engagement you could do for your members, right?
Whatever's chart called.
It's the composition tree.
Composition tree.
But it basically drills down or explains specifically the point. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep, and I was going to say we can add when we add a filter out there, you can specify whether that filter only applies to a certain chart or to the whole page.
Yeah. So for this one, I could probably do that. as an
Or actually
example.
throughout the chart as well. So let's say you have multiple pages of dashboards. You can say when I change the filter, it applies to the whole file. So you can change the level of filter.
Right. So like here, I put in like a status for 2025, and I just want to look at your active numbers. Then this change come from your 250, we're only looking at your active numbers. Or very important that we're all aligned in the association as well. What are your current goals right now? And how, again, how will this dashboard or these reports answer that? And you can pick 3 to 5 metrics that matters to you, matters to the whole association, something that your members or your board or your staff can use. What would be your starting data sources? It's good to know where your data is and where it lives and what else you can do about them. You can choose a beginner-friendly tool, we've given some examples. And of course, you build, you test, you share, you refine. It's like a rinse and repeat. It's a process. This dashboard building is actually a journey. It's a process, and again, for your next steps, we've been saying how you could start small and then early, because it builds your momentum. You don't actually need the perfect data to be able to start. Your best first dashboard is actually something that your members would look at, and then they would say, oh, I can actually totally use this, right? Because what's the point of you're building a dashboard other than, sharing it with your team members and being able to look at insights and use that? Because if not, then it would be a great practice for the next one, for the next dashboard that you're going to build.
But if you can build chart in Excel, we'll take you guys a day to do this. It's easy enough.
Yes.
It's not, like I said, a learning curve. This is flat.
Right. And then again, focusing on what matters. Let's focus on your audience and focus on the actionable metrics, something that you could actually and you will act on. So it's also a challenge in your association. And of course, you grow trust. Let's go back to that building a data-driven culture wherein you grow your trust. You trust your data, you trust your people, and of course, eventually, you trust your tools. You trust the processes and the systems that put them in place. Because at the end, we've been sharing this since the beginning, that building a dashboard is a journey. So for that, we actually will give you a challenge that from thousands of cells to one clear view, are you ready to see your data in a whole new light? Your dashboard journey starts now. So hopefully tomorrow or after this conference, we will all see your first dashboard with all this in mind. So thank you everyone. That would be Denny and myself, and you can always connect to us in LinkedIn if you have more questions about dashboards. Thank you.
Questions, of course, we still have, yeah, you guys have plenty of time.
We just don't want to hold you guys up for lunch, that's all.
Yes. Well, I did want to thank you for both showing us this. I'm really excited because even though I love Excel, I'm good at pivot tables. I was a little afraid of that, so thank you for that. The evaluation will be by email, but we still have time for questions. So make sure, because you have their undivided attention, and remember, we need to be present, active listening. So, any questions? Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Yes.
Okay, say for example, using AI, there are more costs to say to Gemini. I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I can say to Gemini, show me such and such. Using this spreadsheet, show me such and such, would you be able to do that as a chart?
Technically you can. So can anybody get a question? So the question is, if she were to use a Gemini or any AI tool, can she just go to Gemini or ChatGPT and just say, use this spreadsheet and give me a pie chart, right? Is that right? Yeah. Technically you can. The only, as long as, so people think AI is, can solve everything, right? The one thing that I'm worried about that is, unless you have a paid subscription with those AI tools, you don't know where your data is going to, right? So if you have sensitive data, that's the first thing that you want to do. First and foremost, right? If it's just a memory count and there's no PI, personal identifier information, then that's fine. Technically you can, but once it gets to that, then you still have to verify whether that chart is correct or not, right? And also what we find out with the AI tool is the chart or the visualization that they have is very limited. So they might be able to just do a pie chart, bar chart, pie chart, a simple chart. But when one of those, the decomposition chart that Eileen it's a good start, absolutely. So that's the answer. What I was going to say too. So the good thing also with Microsoft Power BI, and I'm not trying to sell you anything about Power BI, is to say with just like any other apps that you're familiar with your phone, right? If you're looking for certain charts that you don't have, that Power BI doesn't have it, there's a Microsoft store that you can buy an app. Not buy an app, buy kind of like a product that offers you a more advanced visualization, right? That Microsoft doesn't have. And that's what's good about this platform. They built something, and Salesforce works the same way. They built something that's good enough and let the ecosystem work and improve the product, right? And we're part of the ecosystem as well. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, I don't know if did I answer your question? Yes, Esther.
I have a simple question, but for that, like you build out the dashboard, and you,
Yes.
and you have uploaded a spreadsheet. Can you, functionally, how does it work? Like, do I just like a year later or 6 months later upload kind of a spreadsheet of fresh data, and it still utilizes those same charts, or I have to
So-
build a whole new dashboard?
Right. No. So the good thing is when you build dashboard with Power BI, you specify which data source that you
Oh, okay.
connect to, right? So if you connect to your AMS or your CRM, when someone changes, so let's say we're looking at the location, right? And someone moves from San Antonio to Dallas, when they update the record in the AMS, the dashboard will get updated as
Okay.
well. Same thing with Excel. If you point out as the Excel as part of the data source, when you update the Excel file, the dashboard will get updated. We use Excel file usually for budgeting. So for some EDs wants to know put their budget versus when we do doing financial dashboarding, they want to do projected versus what budget and all that stuff. With the budget, it changes from year to year. They don't want to change the dashboard. So what we say is, what we do is we connect the dashboard into one of the files that only they have access to, and they can change the number whenever they can do a what if analysis, right? This is my budget this year. What's going to happen with this, right? And so the good thing with this is you can play around and say, I want to increase my dues by 10%. We could the more advanced chart is you could do we don't have it, we could do a predictive the Power BI has it, and it has a cone of uncertainty. You say like, this is what your member count is going to go. It'll go up when you raise your dues by 10%. Your member renewal might dip 5%, right? I don't know. It's just I'm just making things up. Making up some numbers up, but that's the kind of thing that dashboards is good. Excel has that too, but you gotta do 20 steps to do that. In here, you just
Some of it is built in.
it's
already
built in,
Power
exactly.
BI, and it would tell you projection for a specific time period or based on specific measure that you would set. Like if I put it as then said 10% increase, what would be the outcome of that based on the data that they have right now?
So the good thing is it's kind of like set it and forget it kind of thing. You hook up to your data source and that's it. Unless you want to add a column. So now you say I'm looking at column A for my spreadsheet to put in a pie chart, but now I want more information on column B. Then that's when you have to modify the pie chart. But again, it's like Excel, like what I was just showing. You just refresh the dashboard, pull the new field into your chart, and you're done. So it's very like I said, it's again, it's not overselling, over promising, but Power BI, Microsoft is pretty good at making it very user friendly, very easy to. It's like many of you guys are snowboard or skiing. I would say this is kind of like skiing. It's easy to get into, but not skiing. It's easy to get into. It's hard to master, right? And you can go from, like I said, it's very simple dashboards to very complicated that you could, like I said, predictive analytics. You could do some, I don't know.
Years of data and.
Yeah, we have, like I said, one of our clients have, there's a big fundraising nonprofit, and the donors donate things like that. They can figure out what all the stuff and whether they have to make a visit to that donor or just either phone call or email is sufficient enough, or they have to go do an in-person visit. So things like that. There's a lot more things that you can do, get from your data. But like I said, you have it. Take advantage of it. You don't have to pay extra. I mean, there's more information that you might need down the road. For example, if you have an individual member and you don't know who their employers are and you want to find that out, there is service in the U.S. at least. There's a service that you can buy, and we work with the data company that get that. So they give them the name and phone number, and they'll fill out whatever that is requested. Right. So, any other questions? So, if you guys don't have any questions or any questions that you can think of right now, we're here till the end of the day. Stop by. We're happy to answer your questions. If you want to connect with us with LinkedIn, send us a message, send us an email. We're here to help.